Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 25th June 2022. Let us find out the important and relevant articles for our examination. Let us discuss all these articles briefly first. Let us try to understand the relevance of these articles, then we will discuss them in detail. First of all, mains related articles. On page number 6, analyzing the outcome of 14th BRICS summit recently held in a virtual manner, hosted by China. So, outcome of this 14th BRICS summit, the significance of this summit, we have to take input for GS2 paper IR section, international relations. Then, impact of climate change on agriculture, a case study of Cardamom Hills of Kerala. So, this article is there on the jacket page. First page जो jacket page दिया गया है, right? So there is advertisement on first page, and the second page on the back side there is this case study mentioned. Okay, so we should take example of such case study. We should write that in our answer whenever we talk about impact of climate change on the agriculture sector. There can be specific question or there can be general question talking about impact of global warming and climate change. So, you can take this example here, mention in our answer, or suppose there is essay topic related to climate change, we can give this example also. Okay. Now, specifically for prelims examination, yes, the new Niti Aayog CEO is going to be appointed. So, we will quickly revise the Niti Aayog basics from polity section. The institutions, statutory bodies and the constitutional bodies, non-statutory or non-constitutional bodies, they are relevant to our prelims examination. Then Jammu and Kashmir to host G20 meeting next year. So, from that perspective, you should know that there is one committee formed by J&K administration so as to have the effective communication with the delegates of G20 for next year meeting. About G20 summit or G20 grouping will cover, will revise from IR section, international institution. It is part of our syllabus for prelims examination. Now, there is one article on page number 3 talking about invasive weeds of, or we can say plants. They are creating problem in Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve. So, we will try to find out about this invasive species. We can also use this as an example to write in your mains question how, let's say, the biodiversity is getting affected because of invasive species, how the habitat is changing because of these invasive species. Some species are mentioned there, they are relevant to our prelims examination also. Then US Supreme Court overturns abortion right. So, one Supreme Court judgment in 1973 which had allowed the right to have the abortion, this right was given to the women. So, this was overturned in this particular new judgment by the US Supreme Court, and this is going to create some, let's say, protest in US. And now as US has overturned this earlier judgment, now the ball is in court of each and individual states to decide on this abortion rights. So, from miscellaneous perspective, you should be aware what is going on there in US, the important developments. And finally, practice prelims MCQs. So, first, brick by brick. So, the 14th BRICS summit virtually held recently. Our Prime Minister also participated, and this was hosted by China this year. Yesterday, in yesterday's session, we covered the BRICS from the prelims perspective, the basics of BRICS. Okay, so here we will analyze from the mains perspective now. Okay, BRICS has not only made it to the 14th summit, but has been able to demonstrate some concrete, albeit modest outcomes of cooperation, such as emergence of new development bank. It suggests there remains a strong convergence of interest amid undeniable differences. So, there are, let's say, the aligned interest as well as we can say there are differences among the members. And when we talk about the convergence, our Prime Minister described this as a binding glue, a similar approach to the global governance. This is, we can say, the area of alignment largely, or the area of interest convergence, the similar approach they have to the global governance. This approach, according to the lengthy joint Beijing declaration as an outcome of this BRICS summit that followed was premised on making instruments of global governance more inclusive, representative and participatory. Okay, so this is, we can say, the binding glue of all these countries to remain together. Now, in terms of analysis, first of all, we will try to find out some challenges involved here. And then we will talk about the positives also. Yes, so challenges here, we can say that there divergence in some areas that was observed in this year's summit or outcome of summit, especially in two areas. First, we can say UNSC reforms or UN reforms, and second is area of terrorism. Okay, and third we can say the recent one, Ukraine war. Let us try to find out these areas of divergence. UNSC reforms. The Brazil and India both want to have the more expanded UNSC. At present, UNSC permanent 5 P5, they have more powers, veto powers, we can say that, and because of that there is some kind of the bloc is, or this grouping is not representative of the third world countries, especially the African nations, South American nations, they are not included there. Along with that, India being the, let's say, emerging nation at present, it boasts the permanent membership, it wants to be the permanent member of UNSC. So, expansion of this UNSC membership, permanent membership we can say, and making it more inclusive, representative and participatory. This is let's say focused by Brazil and we can say India, but here again it is blocked by China. China do not support India's membership to permanent member of UNSC. Then terrorism, recently we have seen that the Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist Ahmad Makki, so his nomination for the sanctioning committee for UN sanctioning committee was blocked by again China. Recently we had covered this news in the Hindu newspaper analysis. This shows that there is lack of congruence on this terrorism, dealing with terrorism issue also. And to some extent China is protecting Pakistan here by doing or taking such kind of decisions. Talking about Ukraine war, all countries talked about respecting sovereignty of the nations. However, the two nations, that is Russia and China, had criticized the sanctions by the Western countries, although the remaining three countries did not have such kind of criticism there. So, you should know that divergence is there on this Ukraine war issue also. Okay, there is no common viewpoint largely here. This does not mean that there are not positive aspects related to this grouping. So, first and foremost is this NDB itself. Okay, New Development Bank. Since its institution in 2015, it has lent around $30 billion as a loan to developing countries for different projects. This is, we can say that, the positive example. Then we can also say that the 5 countries want to have common remote sensing satellite constellation. Okay, and the progress is being made on this side, space sector. Third aspect is climate change, where all these countries including India, China are on the common table or same side of the table, we can say, on the climate change. So, they are cooperating with each other for this issue. So, yes, of course, there will be some kind of divergence and the convergence, and here onwards these countries needs to focus on more convergence and reduce the divergence areas. Fine. So, this kind of discussion you should do when we talk about question related to BRICS summit. Climate change and crop failure. Okay, this is the case study mentioned there on jacket page, second page there on the Hindu newspaper. It talks about the impact of climate change on the agriculture sector. So, thermosensitive crops like cocoa, black pepper, cardamom, coffee and tea may come under threat as the temperature range across the Cardamom Hill Reserve of Idukki district is increasing. Temperature range means extreme temperatures. During daytime there are hot temperatures, warm temperatures. During night time there is, you should know that Kerala is near the equator, or we can say as a part of tropical state, so it should have very less range of temperature, diurnal range of temperature, but this is increasing because of climate change. So how it is impacting? First on cardamom, that is mentioned here. So cardamom is among the many thermosensitive crops hit by rising temperature levels, change in the weather patterns and the extreme climatic conditions, adding to agrarian distress in Kerala. The farmers complain that inconsistent rain pattern is causing crop loss and delayed flowering, while the vagaries in the temperature and humidity is triggering pest attacks. So this twin challenge you should know here. Then so to deal with this pest attack, high intensity chemical use is being done. Now it is going to affect the growth, development, flowering and capsule setting of cardamom under the changing climatic conditions in Indian cardamom hills. We all know that cardamom hills are the extension of Western Ghats beyond the Nilgiris and the Agastya Malai hills, we can say. Cardamom hills, these extend into Sri Lanka also. Cashew nuts, another example is mentioned, the impact of climate change. Aralam Farming Corporation of Kerala in Kannur district, which produces around 90% of raw cashew nut in Kerala, saw record fall of more than 50% in yield this season. You can give this example also. What is happening here? Excess rainfall during the flowering season affected the fruit setting process, and the wayward weather also led to decline in the quality of the produce. So this is how it is getting affected. Cashew nut or cardamom and other the paddy fields are also getting affected due to excess rain. In the Kuttanad district, you can say, so Kuttanad below sea level farming is, you can say, intangible heritage. It is included in that part also, UNESCO's intangible heritage. Now Parameswaram Iyer will be new Niti Aayog CEO. He is 1981 batch IAS officer of Uttar Pradesh cadre, and he worked in United Nations also, and he is the professor of IIM Ahmedabad also. Fine. So he will be new CEO. Now let us go and revise about Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India. Yes. So this was established on 1st January 2015 by replacing the earlier Planning Commission. So it is neither constitutional body nor statutory body. It is executively created body by the government, like earlier Planning Commission. So it has replaced that planning commission. It is premier policy think tank of the government of India, providing both directional and policy inputs. Now in the spirit of federalism, Niti Aayog's own policy thinking too is shaped by a bottom up approach rather than top down model. So bottom up approach for planning is used here in Niti Aayog. Now composition of Niti Aayog, this can be asked in the prelims examination. Prime Minister himself is the chairperson. Governing Council, it comprises of Chief Ministers of all states and Chief Ministers of UTs with legislature and Lieutenant Governors of other union territories. Regional councils from time to time for specific tenure and specific purpose can be established, these regional councils, and it will comprise Chief Ministers of states and Lieutenant Governors of union territories in that region. They will be chaired by the chairperson of Niti Aayog or his nominee. Now there will be some special invitees like experts, specialists, practitioners with relevant domain knowledge as special invitees nominated by Prime Minister. Okay, they will be nominated by Prime Minister. Full-time organizational framework, so that is also important. See, composition is fine, composition talks about the changing aspects, but the full-time organizational framework is also important. So in addition to Prime Minister as chairperson, vice chairperson, he is appointed by Prime Minister and enjoys the rank of cabinet minister. Okay, the members, full-time members, they enjoy rank of Minister of State. Part-time member, maximum of 2 from leading universities or research organizations. Part-time members would be on rotation. Now there will be 4 ex officio members, maximum of 4 members of Union Council of Minister nominated by Prime Minister. Generally they are the important ministries, we can say Union of Government. Chief Executive Officer, he is appointed by Prime Minister for fixed tenure in the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. Okay, so at present the CEO is being appointed, new CEO. Earlier CEO was Amitabh Kant and his tenure was extended twice, and he is going to we can say be replaced by the new IAS officer. Secretariat as deemed necessary, the new secretariat. Now what are the guiding principles? There are total 7 guiding principles of Niti Aayog. Okay, so demographic dividend, Antodaya, inclusion, village, people's participation, governance and sustainability. So these are the areas you should remember. Again I will repeat: demographic dividend, Antodaya, inclusion, village, people's participation, governance and sustainability. These are the guiding principles, and there can be question in prelims on the guiding principles also. Now Jammu and Kashmir to host meeting of G20 next year, and for that purpose a committee has been constituted to coordinate with delegates of G20 countries. Now about G20 Forum, its member account, it is 20 members as the name suggests, G20 group of 20 members. It accounts for more than 80% of world GDP, 75% of world trade and 60% of population. The forum has met every year since 1999 and since 2008 yearly summit. G20 does not have permanent secretariat, very important point, and a troika represented by the country that holds the presidency. Its predecessor and its successor works to ensure the continuity within the G20. So ye troika sometimes seen in news is related to G20 grouping. Okay. And there are Sherpas also by each and every country so as to ensure the continuity by the members. Now what was the question in UPSC prelims 2020 about G20? They asked about membership, these 20 members, so it was a little bit tough, but you can do the elimination method somehow and mark this correct. Which one of the following group are the 4 countries members of G20? Okay, you can see here that this G20 is comprising the developed countries, all important developed countries and major emerging nations or developing nations. So you can see that Argentina, Brazil, then we have China and India. You can see that Indonesia is there, Mexico is there, then Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey is also there. So yes, these are the developing nations and remaining are developed countries. So on the basis of this also you can eliminate, like for example the Malaysia is not there or New Zealand is also not there as a part of this. यहाँ पे elimination method use किया जा सकता है. Saudi Arabia is there, but let's say Iran, you can simply say that Iran is rival of US, so how it can be the member of G20, so you can eliminate this also. Then here Indonesia, Japan, Singapore and South Korea. So Singapore is not included here in G20, it is small nation, although having a good GDP we can say, but it is not member of G20. Okay, so in this manner when we eliminate Argentina, Mexico, South Africa, Turkey, A is correct answer. So elimination method can be useful sometimes in such kind of questions. So membership पे question आ रहा है, आपको याद रखना है ये चीज. ठीक है. So next part is invasive weed, 17 plants stifling Kaziranga. So a vitamin D3 rich weed and a shrub with roots that wild boars love to gorge on are among the 18 invasive plants stifling the Kaziranga National Park, the best known address for greater one-horned rhinos on the earth. We know that the natural habitat of this rhino, Indian rhino, is Kaziranga National Park, but its habitat is being changed because of these invasive species. Yes, Kaziranga, in addition to this, face the problems or threats of encroachment, poaching and annual floods for the decades. But the new challenge of these invasive species is proving the major challenge now. Okay, now the list of invasive species did not contain the usual culprits of invasive species in many protected areas like Parthenium grass and Lantana camara grass, which threaten more than 40% of India's tiger reserves. And about these two grasses, how they were introduced in India, see, everywhere in India we find this Parthenium and Lantana camara. So they are let's say invasive species, and they have invaded all the, let's say, habitats in India. Parthenium is believed to have come to India as contaminants in consignments of wheat imported from US in 1950s, while Lantana or Lantana camara was brought by the British on as an ornamental plants from South America 2 centuries ago. Then what plants are included in this 18 list? Bombax ceiba and Largestromia speciosa. These trees, locally called as semul or ijar, need immediate attention to save grassland, vital for survival of rhino and other herbivores. Now why they are growing here, you should know. Herbivores usually avoid invasive plants which regenerate at an alarming speed and threaten to edge out the indigenous flora. This is how they are, we can say their area is spreading in these protected areas. Some weeds have herbal properties, but their toxicity outweighs their utility. ठीक है, तो भले ही उनके properties medicinal है, but their toxicity is more rather than utility. So that's why they are not beneficial weeds. See, weeds can be sometimes having many medicinal use, but they are harmful for local species. Weeds, they are more competitive for the resources like water, nutrients from the soil, and because of that they tend to age out the other local species. Now US Supreme Court overturns abortion rights. You should know the background here. Roe versus Wade 1973 landmark decision giving women in America right to have abortion before the fetus is viable outside the womb before the 24 to 28 week mark. So this particular judgment is overturned by the present judgment here. The ruling was expected for some weeks now after the draft opinion leaked early May, sending shock waves through the country and sparking protest. Last month, in May month, we had covered this news also. Now abortion rights which have been available to women for over 2 generations now will now be determined by individual states. Okay? So individual states through their own laws can be either allowing abortion or it can be denied also. Okay? So constitution makes no reference to the abortion and no such right is implicitly protected by constitutional provisions. This was observed in this judgment. Talking about US Constitution. Now what should be answer to this question? Which of the following are the guiding principles of Niti Aayog? Such kind of question can be asked. 7 principles just now we talked, and in those 7 principles we did not see federalism and democracy. So governance was there, sustainability, people's participation was there. So 1, 3, 4 only is the correct answer. B is the correct answer here. Democracy and federalism is not part of, let's say, guiding principles of Niti Aayog. Fine. So yes, it can be confusing with all of them. Students tend to mark all these as a correct answer when they don't have exact information or not able to recollect it. Fine. Okay, these are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Thank you.